The battlefield was quiet in a way that never meant peace. Dust floated slowly through the broken air above the moon's surface, glowing faintly under a distant blue star. Burned metal, cracked stone, and shattered machines lay scattered across the ground, silent witnesses to the ambush that had ended only minutes earlier. The echoes of weapons fire were gone, but the danger was not. On worlds like this, silence was only a pause before the next storm. Evan Hale moved carefully between the ruins, his boots crunching softly against fragments of alien alloy. He kept his rifle ready but pointed down, eyes sharp, breathing steady. He was not a frontline soldier by nature. He was a combat engineer, trained to fix, build, and adapt under pressure. Still, out here, everyone was a soldier. Behind a collapsed wall of black stone stood Valrix. She was tall, taller than any human soldier Evan had ever seen, her armored form rising like a statue carved for war. Her species, the Cathari, were famous across the Alliance for their warriors. Strong, disciplined, unforgiving, Valrix was no exception. Her armor was dark and layered, shaped to her body like a second skin, etched with faint glowing lines that pulsed slowly, almost like a heartbeat. But something was wrong. Evan noticed it the moment he saw her stand up straighter. One of the glowing lines across her chest flickered, then dimmed. A crack ran through the center of her chest plate, thin but unmistakable. From within, a soft warning tone sounded, sharp and uneven. "Your armor's damaged," Evan said, stepping closer before he fully thought it through. Valrix turned her head toward him. Her eyes, bright and faceted like polished amber, fixed on his face. For a moment, she did not speak. The battlefield seemed to hold its breath. "I am aware," she replied. Her voice was calm, deep, and controlled. But Evan sensed tension beneath it. Another warning tone sounded, louder this time. Evan frowned. He had trained alongside alien units before, but Cathari armor was different. It wasn't just protection. Everyone knew that much. It regulated body temperature, stabilized internal organs, and synced directly with the wearer's nervous system. A failure like that could be deadly. "Let me take a look," Evan said. He slung his rifle over his shoulder and knelt slightly, reaching toward the damaged plate without thinking. In an instant, Valrix moved. Her hand shot out and wrapped around Evan's wrist, stopping him cold. The grip was firm but controlled, strong enough that he felt the pressure through his gloves. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Be careful where you touch," she said. The words were simple, but the tone made Evan freeze. It wasn't anger. It wasn't fear. It was something else. A warning layered with meaning he didn't understand. Evan slowly raised his other hand, palms open. "Hey, I'm not trying to cause trouble. I just want to help." Valrix released his wrist and stepped back half a pace, putting distance between them. Her armor flickered again, the glowing lines across her chest stuttering like a failing signal. "You do not understand what you almost did," she said. "Then explain it to me," Evan replied. "Because that armor looks like it's about to shut down." For a moment, Valrix was silent. Around them, the wind whispered through broken structures, carrying fine dust that clung to armor and skin alike. Far in the distance, something rumbled. Maybe enemy movement. Maybe the moon settling after the violence inflicted upon it. "My chest plate is not merely armor," Valrix said at last. "It houses biological regulators and command nodes. Improper contact can trigger fatal responses." Evan swallowed. "Fatal for you?" "For both of us," she answered evenly. That got his attention. "Okay," Evan said carefully. "Good to know. But if that system fails on its own, that's not much better, right?" The warning tone from her armor grew sharper, faster. Valrix's jaw tightened. "Correct." Evan glanced around, scanning the ruins. "We can't stay out here. If the enemy realizes you're compromised—" "They already know," Valrix interrupted. "They targeted my chest, deliberately." That sent a chill through Evan. So what's the plan? Veilrix looked down at the crack in her armor. For the first time, Evan saw something he hadn't expected from a Cathari warrior. Uncertainty. My people do not allow unauthorized contact with this armor, she said. Especially not from outsiders. Evan exhaled slowly. I get that. Cultural rules, sacred tech, all that. But I'm not here to disrespect anything. I'm here because if we don't fix this, you might not make it back. Veilrix studied him closely, as if weighing his words on an invisible scale. Humans were still new to the wider alliance. Adaptable? Yes. Creative? Yes, but also reckless, in the eyes of many older species. You humans are quick to act, she said, sometimes without understanding consequences. Evan gave a small, tired smile. Fair. But sometimes waiting gets people killed. Another warning tone sounded, longer this time. Veilrix turned away from him and scanned the horizon. We require shelter. The armor's internal temperature is rising. There's a structure about 50 meters east, Evan said, pointing. Old. But the walls are thick. Might block enemy sensors. Veilrix nodded once. Lead. They moved quickly but cautiously. Evan taking point. Veilrix covering their rear. Inside the ruined structure, the air was cooler. Broken alien symbols lined the walls. Worn smooth by time and sand, Evan sealed the entrance with a portable field screen, then turned back to Veilrix. All right, he said. Let me see what we're dealing with. I won't touch anything unless you say so. Veilrix hesitated, then nodded slightly. Evan pulled out his diagnostic scanner, a compact human device patched together with parts from half a dozen different manufacturers. He activated it and slowly swept it over her chest plate, careful to keep his distance. The readout made his eyebrows rise. Wow, he muttered. This thing's more alive than I expected. Veilrix watched him closely. Explain. The armor's synced directly to your nervous system, Evan said. That crack disrupted the feedback loop. It's not just losing power. It's sending bad signals. Which is why I warned you, Veilrix said. Yeah, Evan replied quietly. I'm starting to understand. The scanner beeped again, flashing yellow. If this keeps degrading, Evan continued, your armor might lock up. Or overload. Either outcome is unacceptable, Veilrix said. Evan lowered the scanner. I can try to stabilize it. Temporarily. But I'll need access to the outer layer. 2. IR can. 2. Veilrix's eyes narrowed. You were warned. I know, Evan said. That's why I'm asking now. Silence stretched between them. Outside, something exploded in the distance. The enemy was still out there. Veilrix closed her eyes for a brief moment, then opened them again. One attempt, she said. You will do exactly as instructed. Nothing more. Evan nodded. Understood. She reached up and pressed a hidden control on her armor. The glowing lines shifted, dimming slightly. I will disengage the defensive response for 30 seconds. Evan's heart beat faster. No pressure. Correct, Veilrix said. If you fail, there will be no time for a second attempt. Evan stepped closer, hands steady despite the weight of the moment. He focused on the crack, on the damaged circuitry beneath the alien metal. He wasn't thinking about species or politics or fear anymore. Just systems. Signals. Problems that needed solutions. Outside, the war waited. And inside that ruined structure, a single human engineer prepared to touch alien technology that was never meant for him, knowing that one wrong move could change everything. Evan did not rush. That was the first thing Veilrix noticed as he worked. Many warriors, even skilled ones, moved fast when danger pressed close. Humans were often described that way: too quick, emotional, impulsive. But Evan's hands moved with care. Slow and precise. As if the broken armor in front of him was not a weapon of war, but a fragile machine that deserved respect. 30 seconds, Veilrix reminded him. Her voice was steady, but inside her chest, heat continued to rise. I know, Evan said. I won't touch anything that isn't already exposed. He adjusted his scanner, narrowing its field. The device hummed softly, translating alien signals into rough human data. Numbers and symbols flickered across the screen. Incomplete, but useful enough. The crack runs deeper than the outer layer, Evan said. The impact hit one of the signal bridges. Veilrix clenched her jaw. That bridge connects to my core regulators. Yeah, Evan replied. I figured as much. He reached out, stopping just short of the cracked surface. I'm going to use a non-contact probe first. Just mapping. Proceed, Valric said. Evan activated the probe. A thin beam of light scanned the damaged area, shifting color as it passed over alien materials. The scanner beeped faster. Okay, Evan murmured. This explains the warnings. Explain, Valric said. The armor is trying to protect you, Evan replied, but it doesn't understand the damage. It keeps sending correction signals. And that's causing feedback. Like shouting instructions at a system that can't listen anymore. Veilrix frowned. So it is fighting itself. Exactly. Another alarm sounded from her armor, sharper now. The 30 seconds were almost gone. I need a little more time, Evan said. That is not permitted, Veilrix replied. The defensive response will reactivate. Evan looked up at her. If it does, it might lock us both out of any fix. Veilrix hesitated. The rules of her people were clear. Unauthorized access was forbidden. But the reality was clearer still. The heat inside her armor was climbing. Her muscles felt heavier. Slower. 15 more seconds, she said at last. Evan nodded and worked faster, but not sloppily. He adjusted a setting, then another. The scanner flashed green once, then yellow again. I can stabilize the signal, he said. But not permanently. I need to reroute the feedback. Reroute how? Veilrix asked. With human tech, Evan answered. That made her eyes widen slightly. Your systems are not compatible. On paper, Evan said. But compatibility is just a polite way of saying, nobody's tried hard enough. The defensive response began to reactivate. The glowing lines on Veilrix's chest brightened, pulsing unevenly. Decision, Veilrix said. Now, Evan took a breath. I need access to the outer layer. Physical contact. Silence filled the ruined structure. You were warned, Veilrix said. I know, Evan replied. But I won't touch the nodes. I'll stay clear of the sensitive zones. I just need to anchor a bypass. Veilrix searched his face. She saw no hunger for control. No careless curiosity. Only focus. And concern. You will follow my guidance, she said. Every movement. Agreed, Evan said. She disengaged the defensive response again. This time for a full minute. The armor dimmed, and Evan felt the air change, as if the room itself had become more fragile. Slowly, Veilrix said. Left side. 2 units below the fracture. Evan followed her instructions, placing a small stabilizer against the armor's surface. It adhered instantly, sealing part of the crack without pressure. Good, Veilrix said. Now stop. Evan stopped. Another alarm sounded, then faded. The scanner beeped softly. That helped, Evan said. Signal noise dropped by 20%. Veilrix exhaled. Continue. They worked together like that, step by step. Veilrix guided. Evan adapted. Each adjustment reduced the armor's internal chaos, but the core problem remained. This is only buying time, Evan said quietly. Your armor needs a new control path. Something simpler. Something that doesn't rely on perfect feedback. My people abandoned such designs long ago, Veilrix said. They were considered inefficient. Evan allowed himself a small smile. Humans love inefficient things. Means there's room to play. Veilrix did not smile back, but there was curiosity in her eyes. Explain. Our tech is modular, Evan said. Messy, flexible. We build things that can fail, without collapsing everything else. You accept failure as part of design, Veilrix said. Yeah, Evan replied. Because failure happens whether you accept it or not. The ground trembled suddenly. Dust fell from the ceiling. Evan looked toward the sealed entrance. "They're getting closer," he said. Violex straightened. "Then we must finish quickly." Evan pulled a small kit from his pack. Inside were cables, clamps, and a compact power regulator. Nothing advanced by alien standards. Nothing elegant. "This is going to look ugly," Evan said. "But it should work." He began attaching the regulator to the stabilizer, keeping clear of the sensitive zones Valeryx had described. The scanner flickered wildly, then settled. "Power reroute established," Evan said. "I'm diverting excess feedback into a buffer loop." Valeryx gasped softly as the heat inside her armor dropped suddenly. The warning tones faded into silence. "It is quieter," she said. Evan nodded. The system's not fighting itself anymore. But before either of them could relax, the field screen at the entrance flared red. A heavy impact shook the wall. "They've found us," Evan said. Violeryx flexed her hands. "Then, we test your solution." She moved toward the entrance, her steps steady, her strength returning. Evan watched closely, ready to pull back if the armor failed. Another impact. Cracks spread across the wall. "Evan," Valeryx said without turning. "If this fails, I know," he replied. "But it won't." The wall collapsed inward under a blast. Enemy shapes surged through the dust, weapons raised. Valeryx stepped forward to meet them. Her armor flared bright and strong, the glowing lines smooth and stable. She moved faster than before, striking with controlled power. Each movement was clean, efficient. Evan stared in shock. The scanner in his hand showed numbers climbing. He said under his breath. "That's better than expected." The enemy hesitated, confused by the sudden shift. Then they broke and ran under Valeryx's assault. When the dust settled, the structure was quiet again. Valeryx stood still for a moment, then turned slowly toward Evan. Her armor's glow was steady, calm. "You have altered my war gear," she said. Evan swallowed. "Yeah, I guess I did. It performs beyond its original parameters," she continued. Evan rubbed the back of his neck. "Sometimes simple fixes do that." Valeryx studied him for a long moment. Then she inclined her head slightly. "You showed restraint," she said. "And understanding." Evan met her gaze. "You trusted me." "That," Valeryx replied, "is not something my people give lightly." Outside, distant signals echoed across the moon. Word was spreading. Human hands had touched alien armor, and instead of breaking it, they had made it stronger. The quiet did not last. Evan felt it before he heard it. A low vibration passed through the ground, steady and heavy, like something large, moving with purpose. He looked down at the scanner in his hand. The readings spiked, not from Valeryx's armor, but from outside. "Multiple contacts," Evan said. "More than before." Valeryx turned her head slightly, listening. Her senses were sharper now that her armor had stabilized. "They have changed formation," she said. "They believe they have learned something." "That's not good," Evan replied. The enemy was not foolish. They had attacked once, retreated, and now they were coming back with caution. Worse, they knew Valeryx had been injured. Even if they did not understand how she had recovered, they would assume the damage remained. "They will aim for your chest again," Evan said. "Yes," Valeryx answered. "They will not stop until they see me fall." Evan swallowed. "Then we shouldn't stay here." Valeryx nodded. "There is a ridge 2 kilometers north. Higher ground. Better lines of sight." Evan glanced at the scanner. "And fewer places to hide." "Correct," Valeryx said. "But also fewer ways to surround us." The ground shook again, closer this time. "All right," Evan said. "Let's move." They exited the ruined structure through a collapsed sidewall, keeping low. The moon's surface stretched wide and broken, lit by the distant star. Shadows were long and sharp. Every step felt exposed. As they moved, Evan kept watching Valeryx's armor readings. The human regulator hummed softly, doing its work. The numbers were stable. More than stable. Efficiency levels were higher than expected. "This is still holding," Evan said quietly. Velrix did not slow. "It feels balanced," she said. "As if the armor is listening instead of commanding." "That's the buffer loop," Evan replied. "It absorbs the panic, basically." Velrix considered this. "Your machines are designed to expect error." "Yeah," Evan said. "Because we expect ourselves to mess up." A sudden flash cut across the sky. Energy fire struck the ground ahead of them, throwing dust and stone into the air. "Down," Velrix commanded. They dropped behind a jagged ridge of rock as more shots followed. The enemy had range now. They were testing, probing. "They're hurting us," Evan said. "Trying to force us toward the open." Velrix looked toward the ridge. "Then we deny them that advantage." She rose slightly and returned fire, precise and controlled. The glow of her armor remained smooth. No flicker, no warning tones. Each shot she fired was placed with care, not rage. The enemy fire paused. "They're reassessing," Evan said. "Yes," Velrix replied. "They will escalate." They resumed moving, faster now, using the uneven terrain for cover. As they climbed toward the ridge, Evan's scanner chirped again. "Hey," he said. "I'm seeing something odd." Velrix slowed just enough to listen. "Explain." "EA. The armor's output," Evan said. "It's not just stable. It's adapting. The system is learning from your movement patterns." "That should not be possible," Velrix said. "Cathari war gear does not self-adjust without command authorization." Evan frowned. "Well, it is now. The buffer loop is feeding back simplified data. It's letting the armor make small choices instead of forcing perfect ones." Velrix absorbed this as another blast struck nearby. "You have given it freedom," she said. "More like breathing room," Evan replied. They reached the ridge and took cover behind a line of sharp stone formations. From here, they could see the enemy clearly. A dozen figures moved carefully across the plain, spreading out, trying to flank. "They are cautious," Velrix said. "They fear what they do not understand." "Good," Evan said. "Let's keep it that way." Another wave of fire came in, heavier this time. Velrix returned it, her movements smooth despite the uneven ground. Evan noticed something else now. Her strikes were faster, cleaner. She was using less energy to do more. "Velrix," Evan said. "Your armor's performance just jumped again." She did not answer immediately. She was focused, reading the battlefield like a living map. Then she spoke. "I feel it," she said. "The armor no longer resists me. It follows." A heavy impact hit the ridge behind them. The enemy had brought out heavier weapons. "They're trying to break the high ground," Evan said. Velrix's eyes narrowed. "Then we do not let them." She stepped out from cover, drawing their attention. Enemy fire intensified, focused on her chest. Evan's heart jumped as several shots struck the armor directly. The human regulator flared, absorbing the shock. The readings spiked, then settled. "It's holding," Evan said, amazed. Velrix advanced under fire, her armor glowing bright but steady. Each step sent a clear message. The enemy faltered. They had expected weakness. Instead, they saw strength. Suddenly, a new signal appeared on Evan's scanner. His breath caught. "They've deployed a disruptor," he said. "That thing can scramble energy systems." Velrix felt it a moment later. A sharp pulse rippled across her armor. The glow flickered once. Evan's hands tightened around the scanner. "Armor feedback's spiking." Velrix staggered, just for a step. "No," she growled, forcing herself upright. The disruptor fired again. This time, the human regulator screamed a warning. "It's overloading the buffer," Evan said. "If it collapses, the old feedback loop comes back." Velrix turned toward him, still standing tall despite the pressure. "Can you reinforce it?" Evan shook his head. "Not from here. I'd need to get closer to the connection point." "That would expose you," Velrix said. Evan looked at the enemy positions. The disruptor unit sat behind cover, guarded. Reaching it would be dangerous. I can do it, Evan said. But I'll need cover. Velrix did not hesitate. Then you will have it, she charged. Velrix moved like a storm unleashed, drawing all enemy attention. Fire poured toward her, but she did not slow. The armor adapted in real time, shifting energy, reducing strain, flowing, instead of resisting. Evan ran low, fast, using the chaos she created. Shots flew overhead. Explosions shook the ground. His world narrowed to the path ahead. He reached the damaged connector and slid into cover behind a broken machine. His hands moved quickly now, no hesitation. He rerouted power, reinforced the buffer loop, added a crude shield using spare components. Come on, he muttered. Hold together. The disruptor fired again. This time, the buffer held. Evan looked up just in time to see Velrix strike the disruptor unit with a final, precise blow. It collapsed in sparks and smoke. The battlefield went still. Enemy forces began to withdraw, retreating in disorder. They had seen enough. Evan slumped against the cover, breathing hard. His hands shook, then steadied. Velrix walked back toward him, her armor glowing calmly, almost softly now. It is done, she said. Evan laughed weakly. Yeah, I think it is. He checked the readings one more time. The numbers made no sense. This setup, he said. It's outperforming baseline by a lot. Velrix looked down at her chest plate, then back at Evan. You have changed more than my armor, she said. Evan met her gaze. You trusted a human fix in the middle of a fight, and it did not fail, Velrix replied. In the distance, enemy signals faded. Word was already spreading across their ranks. Humans could touch alien war gear. Humans could change it. And when they did, even the strongest enemies began to hesitate. The war had not ended on that moon, but something else had begun. The evacuation signal came an hour later. A low pulse rolled across the moon's surface, steady and clear. Friendly ships were moving in. The battle was over, at least for now. Evan sat on a broken slab of stone, his back against the cold rock, watching the sky. His body felt heavy, every muscle reminding him that he was not built for long fights. Velrix stood nearby, silent and alert, even now. Her armor glowed softly, no longer bright with combat power, but calm, balanced. The human regulator still worked, its faint hum barely audible. You should rest, Velrix said. Evan let out a tired breath. In a minute, he checked his scanner one last time. The readings were stable, more than stable. The system had settled into a new pattern, one that should not exist according to alien manuals. This thing, Evan said, holding up the scanner. It's rewriting its own baseline. Velrix looked down at her chest plate. It feels complete, she said. As if a tension I never noticed is gone. That tension was the armor trying to be perfect, Evan replied. Now it's just trying to work. Velrix considered this. Perfection is highly valued among my people. Evan smiled faintly. Yeah. Humans don't really do perfect. We do good enough to survive. A transport ship descended nearby, engines humming. Medical teams and security units moved out, scanning the area. Some stopped when they saw Velrix, their posture stiff with respect. Then they noticed the armor. Whispers spread quickly. A Cathari commander approached, tall and imposing, his own armor marked with symbols of rank. His eyes fixed on Velrix's chest plate, then shifted to Evan. Report, the commander said. Velrix straightened. My armor was critically damaged. Human engineer Evan Hale performed an unauthorized modification to prevent failure. The commander's gaze sharpened. Unauthorized. Yes, Velrix said calmly. And effective. The commander stepped closer, scanning the armor with his own device. His silence stretched. Evan felt his stomach tighten. He knew what unauthorized meant to a species like the Cathari. These readings, the commander said at last, they exceed standard output. They do, Velrix replied. The modification allowed adaptive response rather than rigid control. The commander turned fully toward Evan. "You touched Kethari war gear." Evan stood slowly, hands visible. "I did," he said. "Only to save her life." The commander studied him for a long moment. Evan did not look away. "Such actions are forbidden," the commander said. Velrix spoke before Evan could respond. "So, is allowing a warrior to die when aid is available?" A murmur passed through the gathered Kethari. The commander's eyes flicked to her. "You accept responsibility?" he asked. "I do," Velrix said. "Fully." Silence again. Then the commander inclined his head slightly. It was a small movement, but among the Kethari, it carried weight. "This matter will be reviewed," he said. "Until then, the human's actions are noted, not condemned." Evan released a breath he had not realized he was holding. Later, aboard the command ship, engineers gathered around Velrix as her armor was examined in controlled conditions. Evan stood off to the side, watching silently as alien specialists ran test after test. "It should not behave this way," one of them said. "And yet it does," another replied. The results were clear. The armor was stronger, more efficient, and less prone to catastrophic failure. The human modification did not replace Kethari design. It complemented it. Velrix remained still through the process, her gaze occasionally drifting to Evan. "You may approach," she said at one point. Evan stepped closer. "Everything okay?" "Yes," she replied. "They are struggling to accept the result." Evan chuckled softly. "Happens a lot." When the tests ended, the senior engineers stepped back, exchanging quiet words. The commander returned. "The modification will remain," he announced, "for further study." Velrix turned toward Evan. "You hear that?" Yeah," Evan said. "Guess my ugly fix made the cut." "It was not ugly," Velrix said. "It was honest." That caught him off guard. "Honest? It did not pretend to be flawless," she said. "It allowed for weakness. That is, unusual." Evan shrugged. "We build for reality." Later still, when the ship had settled into its course and the immediate tension had faded, Velrix found Evan alone near an observation window. The stars drifted slowly beyond the glass. "You are quiet," she said. "Just tired," Evan replied. "And thinking." "About what?" "About how close this all came to going wrong," he said. "One bad call, one wrong touch." Velrix nodded. "That is why I warned you." Evan smiled. "I know." She was silent for a moment, then spoke again. "Among my people," Velrix said, "trust is not given lightly. It is earned through action, not words." Evan looked at her. "And you earned it," she said. She raised one hand and placed it over the center of her chest plate, near the repaired section. "Be careful where you touch," she said again. Evan's smile faded, replaced by understanding. "Because it matters." "Yes," Velrix said. "Because now you know why." Word of the incident spread quickly through the Alliance. Reports were filed. Data was shared. Humans were no longer seen only as adaptable soldiers or clever diplomats. They were something else. Engineers who could work under fire. Problem solvers who respected boundaries, but knew when to push past fear. A species that did not demand control, but offered cooperation. On distant worlds, alien commanders began requesting human engineering units. Not to replace their technology, but to strengthen it. Evan returned to his unit weeks later, expecting little more than a debrief and reassignment. Instead, he found his name on a new list. Adaptive Integration Specialist. He laughed when he saw it. "Figures," he muttered. "Somewhere else in the stars." Velrix stood before her people, recounting the battle. She did not exaggerate. She did not boast. She spoke plainly. About damage, about warning, about trust, and about a human who listened. The Kethari elders listened in return. The war continued, as wars always did. But something had changed. When humans reached out to alien systems, they did not seek to dominate or dismantle. They sought to understand. And in a galaxy built on rigid perfection, that simple human trait became one of the most powerful forces of all.